Microsoft just fired 2,550 woke disappointments to their families. What an amazing day, honestly.
When it came to axing a lot of people, Phil Spencer did not lie. He just used specific language. You see, 3% of Microsoft Gaming's global workforce just lost their jobs. And that makes it seem small. Only 3% global
Should have been more. A lot more, honestly.
workforce. It feels diffuse. It feels more like me cutting 70 calories a day, which I should probably do. But the thing is, the layoffs are not diffuse. They're targeted. And if you work at Blizzard Entertainment, well, your chances are far worse than 3% because
Good, good. Blizzard has been an absolute ish show for a very long time now. No regrets.
3% of Xbox gaming is a lot of people if it's only happening at ABK. So that's our first big point. The second point then is spin, and that's because emerging staff reports do somewhat clash with the memo that was issued by Microsoft under Spencer's name. And of course, all beautifully timed ahead of their next reporting period. You see, big picture, Microsoft are saying that all of this stuff, all these layoffs, they were planned before the merger, that the merger had no impact on these layoffs. Hell, they
Well, if the most of the layoffs are happening at Activision, then that's kind of hard to believe, honestly. But again, Activision deserves a lot of layoffs.
argue to the Federal Trade Commission that ABK would be a limited integration studio. That means less integration, so less layoffs and that kind of thing. They literally said this sort of thing would not happen. And when we literally see Xbox gut the ABK support network and handle those functions themselves, well, it's rather suspicious. And that means
Well, that still actually is considered limited, but okay.
you got stuff to break down. Number 1, layoffs. Number 2, games. Number 3, what staff who have been given the boot have said. And number 4, the thing I'm going to do first, the big bit of news that just dropped. Because, don't we all love big tech? And look, we are here on YouTube, kind of playing into the maze, so I'm building an alternative for the future. It's bellular.games. Over
Very
there, right?
cool.
We've got paradox. On the one hand, they're aggressively cost-cutting staff. It almost seems like Xbox are cash-strapped and barely able to compete with Sony. Meanwhile, they're
They have admitted this and already said this. Xbox's strategy for the future is, well, not Xbox, honestly, if there's a different way to say this. But yeah, Microsoft kind of is looking a lot worse when it comes to Xbox and what's its future gonna look like. The absolute insane idea to put Call of Duty on Game Pass to see if that saves the situation. A lot of crazy stuff.
spending loads of money on buybacks and they're doing larger dividends for their shareholders. But the point is, everyone, this is not a paradox. It is the system. The buyback is not because 650 people got deleted. It demonstrates how the entity that they work for operates at the highest level and what its goal is, and that goal is shareholder value. That is the number one objective of the board. And with that in mind, let's talk about Phil and the layoffs. Off the top of your head, how many layoffs do you think Xbox Gaming has had this year? And is it more or less than the actual number of 2,550? Because that's how
Probably more, obviously, but who cares?
many are gone. Phil's memo basically says this is them aligning their post-acquisition team structure, and he says there's no cuts to games, to devices, or experiences, and then Game File sources report that none of the business unit leaders at Xbox or its affiliated gaming teams will be hit. Instead, it says that most cuts are at the corporate and support role, but we should actually examine that wording because the sources say none of the business unit leaders are hit and there are no cuts to games. Those are specific words. They say nothing of the staff in those business units.
Well, yeah, the first that's gonna go is the staff, obviously. Why would you fire the people at the head if they're fine? The staff are probably complete trash. This is Blizzard we're talking about. I have absolutely no doubts the staff is a complete garbage pile. Admittedly, it's Blizzard, so also the leadership is a complete garbage pile. But still.
And as you're about to see, yeah, actually, some games are being impacted. Two games are struggling most, and they're ones you likely won't shed a tear for. They are Warcraft Rumble and Warzone Mobile. Specifically,
Never played Warcraft Rumble.
Stephen Totilo reports that Warcraft Rumble is moving to post-launch live ops and that Warzone was not as big as they hoped. But that's not the only impact in games. So Variety say that Warzone staff will be shuffled around and Rumble is basically Blizzard's decision. And on this, I'm honestly not that surprised. I mean, the big hits COD Mobile and, I don't know, maybe in some regions Diablo Immortal, well, those were co-developed by NetEase. You know NetEase, the people who specifically are experienced in mobile. And yes, it is insane that COD Mobile and Warzone Mobile basically both exist. What's odd though is the lack of Microsoft's plan, because they said they wanted King as a part of their plan to run their own mobile store, which was supposed to launch in July, but so far there is nothing. A quick note on Rumble then, because it is just the perfect example of a absolute, humongous, colossal waste of time for everyone involved, I would say. I played Rumble. My whole plan was to evaluate free-to-play, to find the grind, and then see how they dangle purchases.
Isn't this just an attempt to make a copy of that already existing game that is like Clash of Clans-esque, where you build stuff and it goes and attacks?
Over me, and then to buy some of those. I was going to do a video, but I just couldn't be bothered anymore. Basically, the core game is pretty well designed, it's pretty sticky, but the lack of content and insane levels of grind are absolute deal breakers. And the content that is there is totally...
It's a mobile game. I would be personally offended if they didn't try to milk everyone with it. Mobile games. They're not games, they're microtransaction simulators, which a lot of people sadly fall for, but you know, it is what it is. Diablo Immortal, anyone? Yeah, that thing actually works.
Totally generic. It's just stuff in themed maps around zones that you know. There's no stories, there's no mini campaigns, the content cadence is pretty awful. I then compare that to what my friends who play Eastern Gacha games do, and yeah, they definitely are
Eastern Gacha games, what a name.
Squeezed for money, but my god do they get a lot of content in return. Very much unlike Rumble, which just makes me think, these people, this team had no business building Rumble. Why was it greenlit in the first place? Were they just chasing for Hearthstone? But guess what? There's a grind that we...
Yes, they were just chasing for something that could work like Hearthstone and invigorate the community that previously played it. Hearthstone is still, I think, the biggest card game online, but at the same time, it is past its prime. It is definitely past its prime. And if you reintroduce something like Hearthstone, I mean, that sounds kind of interesting. Wouldn't you want to go back to the days of early Hearthstone? Probably, maybe, who knows?
Can sell the solution for even harder. It just says to me that this whole thing was doomed from the start and they did not have the in-house, well, chops to make a game like that good. And all that we, the players, got in return from that was staff moving away from games that we actually care about. And so with this cut, we see that internal mobile game stonks are down. It's not just them, and to be honest with you, I think a lot of those internal mobile games were kind of massive wastes of time. It just sucks in those wastes of time also impact.
Probably. But at the same time, it's a question, will it actually work out? Because you need to understand, this is what Billy is probably missing from the picture. These mobile games are targeted most likely with places like Japan in mind. Japan is something that PlayStation has a way huger hold over. And in general, you know, games are popular in Japan, obviously, but they do really love their mobile games. PC gaming, yeah, it's okay. People do like it, but mobile games is where it's at. For example, PUBG is surviving pretty much on exclusively mobile in Japan and China and other places like that.
Pack the people. Next, let's talk about staff and the who, because it's not just mobile games. We do not have a lot of public reveals here, but the few we've got are kind of telling. An encounter designer, a 9-year veteran on World of Warcraft, and certainly the new raid is fantastic, but there's a few little instances where I feel like more hands in deck would have been useful. So that...
Oh no, after 9 years of working on World of Warcraft, I am terminated. Sad violin. I am doing as ok as I can and looking forwards to the future for other positions. I'm happy I got to see everyone play my content and work with others since Legion. Oh boy, look at that. This guy looks like someone who definitely would enjoy Shadowlands. I've accomplished all my goals, so time to make more. Pathetic. Accomplishing all of your goals? How is that even possible?
That's kind of sad to see. There's a senior talent marketer who said that most of her team...
Auden Goldsmith, okay. I was not impacted, but I'm heartbroken, and most of my team was. That's okay. You probably are hot, so we're gonna save you.
Were impacted, and I believe that was in the capacity of recruitment and that sort of thing. And then the story and franchise development team got hit again. And the wild thing is that department has struggled for ages to the point where it actually impacts Blizzard products. So Warcraft Chronicle Volume 4 was published full of errors and inconsistencies. And the point is, the story and franchise development team are the people who are supposed to fact check that, to keep it right, to help keep the developers on track with story. And we've continually heard from people who used to be on that team that it was understaffed and overtasked.
No, the people at the lore department of World of Warcraft are just shit. There's no way to sugarcoat it, there's no way to say it otherwise. They are literal trash, okay? They allowed the J-Lib to happen. They allowed the nothingness that is Draenor to happen lore-wise. Battle for Azeroth. What even happened there? Sylvanas just burned a tree down, and other than that, I don't even know. Okay? Nothing makes sense. These people need to be let go because clearly it's not that they're just incompetent, they are completely inept at their job. They probably are thinking more about political statements than actually making a good game, and we don't want people like that in the game industry. We want people who make games. We don't care from which side of the what they come. We don't care about their opinions. We just care that they make a good game. But they don't. They care more about their political leanings and opinions and all of that boring garbage that we don't like in the first place.
Then we've seen a producer go on Rumble, an IT engineering manager of 17 plus years, along with further reports of engineers and recruiters being hit, but we know that via LinkedIn status is changing. And remember, whenever they
ChatGPT taking over, boys.
Whenever Phil says the majority are corporate and support roles, that's because they want you to think that they're trimming fat. Yet evidently, they're...
Well, they are trimming fat. Trimming these people is trimming fat. I don't even know, honestly, what else to call it. You can probably optimize all of this to hell and back with very minimal effort.
There's a veteran World of Warcraft encounter designer gone, and that's the thing.
So what that they're a veteran? The fact that you have worked in a company for 20 years doesn't mean that you're even good. Dude, how often are there situations where there's someone who has worked in a company for like 10, 20 years, and then someone new comes along, and they're just better at everything? Does that person with 10, 20 years of experience have any right more than the person that's new but better than them? Probably not.
650 people are gone. The majority may be corporate and support, but that could be 400, which would leave 250 frontline developers, and their statement would still be true. Now, I don't think that many frontline developers are gone, but I just want to bring up the point that any memo like that has got to be read with the utmost skepticism because it's trying to sell you in their vision. Then there's the problem of definition. How the hell do you define those things? Corporate, marketing, stuff like that? I mean, games need to be marketed well.
Very easily.
How often do we see shit marketing that misses the mark for IPs for brands that we care about? I mean, take the team that does...
I mean, nowadays, not that often, honestly.
Warcraft social media, they would be considered a support team. The insinuation is they're non-essential, and in a way that's technically correct. If the Twitter account dies, WoW will survive. But
no one will give a shit.
What that team has...
Except a couple of, people who make videos on YouTube.
...done is totally overhaul World of Warcraft's social presence within just a few years, creating a far more, honestly, authentic feeling link with their community. So if you got rid of all those support people, guess what? You'd actually lose something pretty damn big that's high impact and that supports the game's health. And
I will choose a game being good over some kind of rando person posting on Twitter every day, by the way. It's just shit, maybe just me.
It's this type of gutting specific support and replacing it with generic support from Xbox Gaming that leads to stupid stuff like the FF14 thing, where basically, right, their system, which was all machine learning based, it was banning people because of free company. Hey, do you want some free company in your area? Well, come down to my housing ward. That's what they thought it was, which in fairness is kind of what happens in that game. But basically, a free company's like a guild. People were getting banned because the bot thought it was solicitation, which is insane. You see, that's the big problem. Centralizing game support functions to Xbox.
Okay, and then you fix it, and you're fine. Not a big deal.
generically means that specific game experience is lost, and that blows especially for the likes of Blizzard, where their customer service used to be renowned and so often
It hasn't been renowned and useful forever. No one cares. GMs. The Blizzard support system has been dead for a decade at this point or something. Who cares?
were fellow turbo players of the games. But of course now ticket times are far longer and it's generally seen to be way worse, even though some individuals are still there trying. And that's not a surprise. Whole offices of customer service were axed. Take their Austin office that handled IT infrastructure. It's been ravaged multiple times, brutally so. Now Microsoft are not wrong to see duplication in roles, but the thing is, that's duplication in job title. It's not necessarily duplication in detail, and it's the details that matter because those are the specifics of how you execute your job. But such is the case with mergers. Sometimes part of the value add is just cutting down duplication, and that is why Mr. Spencer says this. With these changes, our corporate and supporting teams and resources are aligned for sustainable future growth and can better support our studio teams and business units with programs and resources that can scale to meet their needs. Spoken like a true manager and not
Good. Everything I heard there is good.
One who's dealing with the details. So, if you're at Blizzard, I am sure you're thrilled to start using Microsoft Teams and Azure DevOps. And of course, for you and me, it blows. Microsoft have put so much of their customer service over to chatbots. And look, for triage, I'm not against the chat. I mean, a chatbot with a good RAG implementation is probably more useful than a standard FAQ to most people. But the thing is, those tools can be leaned on too hard, too early, by people who don't do the details themselves. Microsoft's bull case, in a way, is something I'm behind. The idea of automating drudgery. Take the butter-passing robot from Rick and Morty, right? Humans should be working on problems that require human intelligence and creativity. But here's the problem. It's such an easy argument to make at the C-suite.
I mean, I'm sorry, have you seen the average human intelligence and creativity? I'll fucking pass, okay? I will pass without hesitation. In fact, look at this. Whoever designed this had no integrity, no moral values, and they just put together a hodgepodge. Okay, listen, I would rather AI design whatever the fuck is this supposed to be instead, okay? Very simple.
Level, but it's far harder to implement. And as anybody like me who has had the Dante of chatbots just juggle them for hours, well, not for hours, but you get the point, well, the tech ain't there yet. And here's the problem. These tools can be goddamn amazing. That's outside of games and, say, medical screening. Inside of games, Blizzard uses a machine learning tool to resize helms. That is an artist-led workflow improvement, because nobody enjoys that. I use a AI-augmented thing for spelling grammar.
Oh no, this is the same. We already had one Billiard video when we talked about this. People who are against AI taking over jobs, listen, you have no choice but to be against literally every single implementation of AI. If your argument is that, oh, AI is going to take jobs away from us, blah, 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 blah. Yes, it 100% will. But there is no such thing as, oh, we're going to use... Wait a minute.
Grammar and custom checks that is leagues beyond Grammarly, to the point where it can spell check Warcraft character names. My email client, Superhuman, it summarizes email chains super well and gives me context. Those things all rock, and they're great for the same reason the Blizzard's helm resizing is. It's user-driven, because I know my job, I know what good looks like, I know how I work. I am sure that Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, is lovely. Same for Phil, absolutely. But they don't know how I work. They don't know how a frontline person doing CS on World of Warcraft works in specific World of Warcraft ways. By definition...
Do they need to care? Also, you can hear it sawing pipes, so... soon, they're probably gonna be done, and then I'm gonna...
They are not frontline. So when the AI tools get pushed down from the top, especially at a company...
Okay, there we go. The saw ended. Listen, we have talked about this. If you're against AI because it takes jobs, you cannot allow any AI generation at any point, because there's no such thing as AI just supplementing a job, okay? Resizing helmets, AI, that's still taking away from someone's job. It's still somehow taking away from some human's job somewhere, okay? Someone still lost their job, someone's still gonna get fired because it's gonna done be faster now, okay? Either you're completely pro AI and it's used wherever, or you're completely against everything AI because it takes away jobs. I don't care. It's just use the AI, okay? People are incompetent. AI is also incompetent, but hell, it's not a lot worse than humans.
With tens of thousands of staff. It is not like you or me finding a tool and using it. Does Satya sit down and work customer service once a month so he understands what...
No, but he doesn't need to. That's the thing. It's him be if he even did this, that would not improve his decision making, okay? That there's layers to businesses for a reason, especially large businesses, because you can't micromanage everything. If you do, you're never gonna get anything done.
What that team's doing. Does Phil shadow a mid-level producer on Warcraft so he understands what those people are doing? No, they're too large for that as an organization.
And they don't need to do it.
And that means the leaders can be out of touch. And that means when we think about the layoffs, when we think about the automation, it all just kind of begs a question with these staff. Why did the flurry of unionization at ABK not protect people? Well, the answer is
because unions are shit and useless. Again, go into a union, congratulations, never getting promoted. Keep living your union life now, okay?
the parent union, Communication Workers of America, can't actually do much about this right now, other than a harsh statement. The reason why, though, is maybe not what you think. It's because none of the people who got laid off were under one of their unions, which is exactly what happened during the last far larger round of layoffs at ABK. Microsoft is a gigacorp that does not care about you. Act accordingly.
Wow. Well, that's the first thing I actually truly agree with. Your work is your work, not your family, not your anything. Do not sacrifice yourself for your work, because they will never sacrifice themselves for you. And that's pretty much it. Anyway, that was Bellier, 10 out of 10. Bye!